Welcome. Thanks for playing Killer Queen Black, and thanks for tuning in to our Sunset Chat. Tonight, we will discuss what happened and what's next, and answer some of the questions you've submitted. We also have some fun community shoutouts to share. First, here's who we have with us tonight. Up in the top, we have Mike Chorak, Chief Architect, Ika Dorda, Art Director, Bryce Pulse, Programmer, and Adam Walters, CTO, and myself, Marketing Manager for Liquidbit. Thank you all for agreeing to do this, and thank you all for tuning in. Killer Queen Black wouldn't have actually made it this far without your support, and while this is really hard for us, we know that you guys have all built relationships around Killer Queen Black and have welcomed our little game into your everyday lives, and that means a lot to us. So let's just get started. Adam, can you talk to us about what service GameSparks provided and why it didn't work out?
Sure. GameSparks provided a lot of what you behind the scenes stuff that you use in Killer Queen Black. All of our authentication across all the different platforms was handled through GameSparks. There's all the leaderboard, essentially everything associated with the player record. So, all your stats, your MMR, everything in that regard, the leaderboards. And a big one was all the communication that happens, basically within the party system. So joining in, creating parties, synchronizing, moving between screens, and responses from the matchmaker. So pretty much everything outside of like the core game, GameSworks had a hand in, or a lot of it. So
yeah, and the whole friend system too.
Yeah, the whole friend system. And it not working out was they are sunsetting the service to roll out a new version, and unfortunately it wasn't just a straight up direct port that or migration that could happen just automatically for us. So that's pretty much covers it. Pretty much everything in Killer Queen Black had something to do with GameSparks.
Cool, and we actually weren't the only game that had to sunset because of losing the GameSparks service. So I want you guys to know that this team really worked hard to make it happen. We tried a lot of different alternatives, even some things that you had suggested after our announcement. I know kind of our last ditch effort was to see if we could go Steam only, but it really wasn't possible. As bummed out as we are grateful that GameSparks was able to offer us a 30, I think it was like a 60-day deadline, so that we could finish out the B Game League season. So, not too many burned bridges, but we definitely learned a lot of lessons there. Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about what that means going offline and how players can play games locally? No more Stadia, and Luna probably won't happen, but as far as the other platforms?
Yeah, so local play will still be supported fully. You should, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, you can do 8-player local on PC, correct?
Yep. Yeah. Everywhere you can do 8-player. Yeah.
Everywhere. Oh, on Xbox and.
Yep.
Oh, okay, great. Maybe it should have been an Adam question.
No, it was, but I screwed up. So yeah, but
it's and then Switch players will also have the added benefit of being able to do what do we call it?
Wireless play, or I think it's what
local wireless.
Local wireless play. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Anything that supports 8 controllers, or you should be able to add as many human players as you have the system supports controllers, is the way I guess I would look at it. Pretty sure you can do 8 on Xbox, but I'm not 100% now that you got me thinking about it.
Yep, yeah. And that'll be in the custom match format. So you can set up the matches however you like. You can do random maps. You can set your maps, like which ones you want to play, and there's a bunch of modifiers we have in there too as well. Things like low gravity mode and stuff like that. So all of that will be accessible still.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you just want to download it before November 29th. Even though the sunset date is November 30th, it's very hard wrangling in the exact time. So make sure you download it before 11/29 and play locally. All right, so we're going to get into some of your questions now. And I was shocked that out of about the 20 we received, there are only 7 about source code. So we're going to get to that. But first, we're going to warm up with some rapid fire questions. Mike, what's the snail's name?
Again, another Adam question. I mean, you named you named them, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, and Bryce is the one with a pet snail, so.
Right, you're over there.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone asked I think maybe during the beta or it was just after launch, someone asked what the name was, and I think I had just watched Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. And there's a line he's like, "Chill, Winston," and for some reason I just threw it out there and it stuck. So Winston is the name of the snail.
I remember when that happened, and you came to me and you're like, "Man, I think I screwed up. I don't think I was supposed to do that."
Yeah, well, you never know if you're
Canonically, though.
stepping out. If it had a name in Killer Queen Arcade, I didn't know, and I just people latched onto it, and I did not expect that. So
They are canonically different snails, though. The Killer Queen
Yes, they
Black
are.
snail and the Killer Queen Arcade snail.
Right.
Thank you for the clarification. Well, what's your snail's name?
My snail's name is Winston, but that's funny because
Awesome. See how dedicated we are, you guys?
Yeah.
This is really hard for us too. So, all right, next quick question, Mike. Can the game be relisted for sale on each platform?
Yeah, I mean, maybe someday that would be nice, but we don't really have anything definitive at this time. So hopefully.
And a lot of people ask why it even was pulled from the store, because there'll still be local play offered. Just to clarify, the in-game menus, the way that the eShops are set up, everything really relied on that multiplayer component and online feature. So we would have some resubmitting to do there.
Yeah, and then like packaging and all of that says
Yeah.
like multiplayer support, and so.
Yeah. Cool. This is a fun one and a multi-part one. So the question from the community is, Seawall's recent map survey showed that Nesting Flats was the #1 fan favorite. So kind of as a group, and I'm really looking at Ika and Bryce here, tell us your thoughts about creating the first new map after release. And Ika's going to talk a little bit about the background art, but also some alternative choices for platforms, berry piles, hives, placements in the map that didn't make the cut. So Ika, I'm going to let you kick us off with kind of how the map art and all that came together.
Yeah, so back then I was a UI artist, so I didn't really make the map, so I'm sorry about that. But our amazing artist, he was the lead artist at the time, Blake Reynolds. He was in charge of all of the background art and honestly most of the pixel art that you're gonna see, as well as Ian, who also helped out with a lot of animations. I know for the most part when Blake tackled background art, he kind of like made up stories in his head to figure out what could be happening in the scene, how to detail the scene. And from there, it would bounce off to the designers, and there would be a lot of back and forth, honestly, until there was a look and a design that made sense.
Awesome. And Bryce, can you chat us through some of like the decision-making process on the dev team when it comes to game design, gameplay for Killer Queen Black maps, especially Nesting Flats?
yeah, sure. So yeah, Nesting Flats was the same a level that came out around the same time that we really expanded our custom match mode and stuff like that as well. And so a lot of it was actually just trying to get the capability to be able to seamlessly add a new map into the rotation without having to redo a lot of how we were doing map selection and all sorts of things within that cycle. But honestly, there were I can't remember how many were in the consideration at a time, but I believe we had 2 or 3 different maps that we were considering, and then we also had a variety of like essentially remixes of other maps as well that we were kind of trying to consider about what to put in. And Nesting Flats honestly is just the one that came together the best. It felt the most balanced and accessible to a wide variety of players, where a lot of the other ones might have been a little bit more dedicated or have like some more, I don't want to say unique features because it's Killer Queen and it's the game loop is very tight, so it's not like we're adding any like new weapons or anything like that. But it definitely had a layout that didn't necessarily coalesce with the other 6. It would feel relatively different. So we wanted to make sure that we had a level that was new and exciting and had like this really cool, that level looks great, but still felt in continuity with the first 6 levels that we already had.
Well, cool. Thanks for that insight. And this is not a community question, but it was a question in our Discord. We're going to go around real quick. What's everybody's favorite map? Bryce, what's yours?
Oh, it might be Nesting Flats.
Okay. Ika?
Get back to me.
I really like Temple.
Okay. Mike?
I believe it was called the Pooh.
Font choice.
Game map.
Yeah,
Okay, pod.
Pod.
Pod
That's the one.
number 2. No, pod 1. And Adam.
Issue.
Probably Temple.
Okay.
Snail Temple. Yeah.
I like the throne room. I like the new.
Okay.
I like all the purple. So awesome. Okay,
That, actually,
moving.
that might be mine.
Yeah, there you go. I know. I was surprised, Bryce. I like set you up for that. Okay, Mike. Quick question. We get to ask this one quite a bit. Can Liquid Bit or Bumblebear make a KQB cab?
Oh my gosh. I mean, if Bumblebear wanted to, honestly, I'd always wanted to see someone in the community do it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you just put a switch in a freaking cab, and it'd be fine. And if you do it, let us know. We'll put it on our Twitter.
There you go.
But no, I mean, are we going to do that? I would love to have one. Like, if we ever get a future office, totally. And we'd still be, we'd play some games. That'd be a lot of fun. We never did get a chance to get a Killer Queen cabinet, though we really wanted one, but that was a lot to ask.
Never know.
Yeah.
Never know. All right, cool. So that was fun. Now, these are the questions you've all been waiting for, source code and source code related info. We're going to start with a brief of what delivering source code publicly would entail and why that is very difficult. Adam, you're stuck with this one. What does delivering a sanitized version of source code to the public mean? And what are the major roadblocks?
And Mike, jump in anywhere on this too. I think one of the biggest things, it would take us some time. Like, we're under NDAs as well with a bunch of different companies for SDKs, and you can't even get access to documentation for using these SDKs without being under an NDA. Like, it's behind an approval wall, so we can't just go and throw all that stuff out there for the public. So we would have to go in, remove all that, and make sure, in the process that it still, runs and works fine.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's the biggest reason we can't just, throw it out there. Is just, those things that we legally cannot do. So.
Yeah, any of the platforms, the consoles. Yeah, that would all. So it would be a. Well, I guess it would be a Windows and Mac only release. Yeah. And then like any of the old, like, well, all the GameSpark stuff would have to come out of there, right? And then yeah, Game Lift as well. So yeah. So yeah, it would be involved. Fortunately, I think we were pretty good about keeping a lot of that stuff kind of compartmentalized, so it's not like sprinkled all throughout the game. So that's good news. But yeah, we'd have to roll up our sleeves, and it would take some time for sure.
Yeah, definitely on our radar. Something else that's a bit of a buzz in the community is community run servers. Now, what would that even entail? Right.
So if you're a PC gamer, you're probably familiar with this. I don't know if they still really do it, but I mean, for a lot of games, they would release, the game and then like the dedicated server. And like the server you could run in like, off of your computer, you could put it in like, Amazon EC2 or something. So, one thing that we're kicking around that would be really cool is if we could, our server is built as a separate thing. So being able to kind of release that to the public as something that they could run on their own computers or in the cloud or somewhere would be really cool.
Yeah.
Again, that would take a lot of work because the servers are built to run in like Amazon's Game Lift environment, and so we would have to rip all of that out. But yeah, something that we're also considering doing. It would be really cool if we could do that.
Yeah, and there'd be like, there'd be a lot. We'd have to do some like kind of just game design stuff of how the interface changes to get you into a game, right? Because the whole way that we communicate and create teams and like tell people like to go there, like that as a GameSparks component to it also. So we'd have to figure out how that works.
I feel like we would just take like the join custom match UI, like to enter the code, and then just have them enter the IP address and a port number, and then
just like limit it, like first 8 that get in there.
Yeah.
The wheels are
probably
turning.
do something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just run it kind of the same way we do the local wireless rooms on Switch or something like that too.
I said open up the dev console and let them type in a command like we used to, but we could
stuff.
probably do a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And it is on our radar, and it is something we think about. It's not like we want to pull this right out from under your feet. It was definitely a heartbreaker and shock for us too. So source code's on the mind, community run servers are on the mind. We pumped out a blog on achievements last week, so definitely check that out and kind of, some of the nuances of why that's not going to be updated as well. But thank you for all your questions. We've pretty much answered all of them, and there were some doubles. We are going to go around the panel for these last two, which I think are really fun and really cathartic. So, put on our therapy hats here. But okay, the first question. If you had the chance to go back in time to before KQB was launched in beta in 2019, what would you do differently? And what would you tell your previous self?
Well, that's a great question because I know a lot of you probably know this, but some of you might not. Is that like KQB was Liquidbit's first game, right? That was our first one. Bryce has been in the industry for a very long time, so but nowhere near their first game. But it was Adam, Matt, and mine, and we learned a lot along the way, and there was a lot that we did that I think was really good. And it allowed us to things like allowing us to debug the game and record people's games and play them back, and all that stuff was really cool. But taking everything that we learned and going back and saying, what would you do different? It's like, okay, well, the way we built it with Unity, that was probably not the greatest way to go. We wrote a lot of our own stuff versus just kind of embracing the engine that we were using. So that really took a lot of extra time to do. But yeah, I would say probably those. That would be the major one for me, at least.
Awesome. Ika?
That's really hard for me. I kind of came in maybe midway through by the time you guys were working on the project. Yeah. So a lot of things were already set up for me. Honestly, it's really hard because my biggest regret is I wish certain things that were in the works were able to get pushed, especially for when we first released, right? And I don't know if I can speak about it, but obviously
frog suit. No.
Not having a shop or a season's pass or things like that would have added a lot to the longevity. But I remember part of our issue was at a certain point, we were either going to do that or we were going to release for all consoles, the consoles that we released with. And that was kind of the struggle. And which one do you choose? And I believe the team really wanted to just make it accessible to as many people as possible. And we just never got around to being able to go back to do the shop.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that Ika designed.
Oh yeah,
a lot of really great stuff that unfortunately didn't.
Really cool art. Yeah,
I'm leaking the frog suit. No, it's a good one though, Ika. Bryce, how about you?
I was similar to Ika because I came on later through. I was working on a different Switch game at the time called Sausage Sports Club, and I helping out with the game festival that we have here in Chicago. And we had Killer Queen Black from the Liquidbit team there to show off the game. And that's how I met Adam and Mike. And then a week later, I got an email being like, hey, well, it seems like you know your way around an 8-player game on the Switch. You want to come help out? And I was like, sure. And I got there. And like Mike said, this is Liquidbit's first game. But this was insanely ambitious, especially for a first game. An 8-player online game with cross-play across multiple consoles and all sorts of this stuff. That it was an incredibly ambitious scope. And so it also kind of speaks to what Ika was talking about, of you have all these ideas in your head about what a game can be and all these features you can have, and you have these ideas in your head about how you can make a better game, but also the game's got to come out at some point because people got to play it. We have to be able to get it into people's hands, and so that way we kind of grow a user base and all this sort of stuff. So you have to make these incredibly tough choices, and I definitely do wish that we were able to launch with a little bit of a wider feature set, but also just in the reasonability and practicality of scope, it really probably wasn't possible in any sort of cohesive timeline. I would tell myself that in 2020 there's going to be a global pandemic.
Yeah, don't build a game during a global pandemic.
Yeah. Just lock that down real quick.
Don't try to port to Xbox during that one.
Oh yeah.
I was sitting by myself trying to do all the cross order, because Xbox has a great system for doing like essentially the same thing our friend's system does, but that was a pain in the ass to test by yourself. With 3 consoles wired up throughout my house, and I'm running between them. Try and plan for those pandemics.
My desk is still all dev kits from different platforms and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's what I got.
Yeah.
No, I mean you nailed it. I mean, it was our first game, so we were like, we gotta everything in the kitchen sink. We gotta like, how much can we pack into this thing? Like,
right.
And how many people worked on this game? It's a very small number trying to make an 8-player multiplayer game.
Yeah, more than half.
We never had enough to fully test it.
Yeah, for most of the game's development, I don't know if we had 8 people on the team.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Right.
Adam, is there anything you wanted to add to that? What you'd tell your previous self?
Yeah, I mean, I think just as far as like, I think not planning upfront and prioritizing the monetization aspects, like basically what Ika said, I think was a big one. Beyond that, no, I mean, I had never, Mike had done some game development before. I had never even fired up anything, like never, I did my first tutorials of like a week before we were starting this off. So, for anyone that is doing it, finding someone, like I leaned on Mike heavily throughout this entire process and learned a ton. As far as like things to do different, one I've thought of in the past, just from like kind of comments you would see around launch, or even when it was announced that we were sunsetting it, was there was a big gap between showing at E3 and when we launched. And showing at E3, I mean, that's still, I can't believe that actually happened. I can say I was on Nintendo show floor. But I think there was just, because that was so early and we had so much we still wanted to add, that it caused, it just fell out of people's, minds. Like it wasn't fresh anymore. So, I mean, that's a tough one because it's hard to say to turn down that opportunity. But it was kind of unfortunate, the timing that we had between that and between launch. So
time was not on our side, between that expectation and then kind of the fall off of hype, and then here it is again, and then the hype. And as we're planning events, and it's an online game, but we had local things, and then the pandemic hit. So yeah, we really got hit by time, but also persevered through a lot of it and found some success. So good job on that. I would say, something that I would tell my previous self, coming from marketing and going into video game marketing, I used to be with software tech, community management was something that to me was customer service. I didn't really know that was a facet of actual game marketing, so shame on me, but I wish I would have leaned more into hosting some events and have more cooking contests. Come on, guys, food fan art, like what's wrong with you? You don't like a sticker? So definitely some lessons learned. Also, when you're an indie dev team, there's not a lot of budget for that kind of stuff. So t-shirts and keys, and really just, trying to be as engaged as we can with the community while also still building a game and maintaining a game and doing things. In retrospect, I think a little bit of clarity from me would have been better on that, but we're not going to go back. We're going forward, and we got new things coming. So kind of the second cathartic wrap up question here, and this is great. And I think, we just gave this advice to kind of ourselves as well. But what advice would you give to new devs trying to create a casual indie multiplayer game? And there's multiple questions within here. So we'll kind of go around the panel and I'll fire them at you guys. But so I'm going to say attracting and keeping an audience was one of the questions. I would blow up Twitch, definitely lean into the influencer group a little bit more, not be so afraid of TikTok, and just build those relationships, giving more players the power to do branding for us. That was pretty new for us. So the next question in that multi-part one here, Mike, do you want to tackle maintaining a good revenue stream?
Well, that's a That's
Like
that
this
would
is
act
advice for new players. Advice.
such a Matt question. Unfortunately, he can't be here with us today. But a revenue stream, yeah. I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the monetization, right? And it's something that really kind of happened late, I think, in development, where we were, we were kind of looking at the models of different games and how they did these things. And honestly, we really wanted to do like a freemium model. Like that was actually like the pie in the sky, idea. It was like, you play the game for free, and then if you like the game, you can, join our season pass and, get different assets and, um, and compete in tournaments and things like that. And we weren't able to get there. But like that would have, I remember a lot of people in the community were begging for a store. They're like, just make a store, like just give us like emotes we can buy and like different like hats and stuff. It's like, I will give you so much of my money. It's like, some of our it's so funny because like me personally playing games, I don't really do that a lot, but like people love that stuff, and it's so sad because like again, Ika built so many cool things. Like how many emotes did you end up making? Like there's this whole
16 or
So
so.
many.
so many.
Swords.
I had 4 seasons worth of emotes.
I was fighting until the last day of just being like, if you give me like a couple months.
Right. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think, but planning for that is really, really
Mhm.
important.
It is.
I mean, especially if you have server costs, you have to keep the lights on and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, good deal. Adam, how about balancing player requests versus vision? I know you got tagged a lot in the feature request channel of our Discord. So where do you find that balance and what's part of the dev vision and what the players want?
That's hard because I think, like things that we never got to, it's not, we want to basically meet everything that, people wanted to build. It's not like we're like, that idea is so dumb, like why would we do this? It's just the time thing, and like trying to like explain that, or like, it's hard. I never really did find the right balance to tell people, like, it's not that we're hating on the idea, but we have to prioritize. Like, we can't just wait until we get them all done to like unleash them. So you kind of have to like, which one do you think is going to make the biggest impact? And so like it's hard. I'd always just ask people. It gets frustrating too, because you start seeing there's people that get upset like when things aren't there. And it's it's not like we don't want to do it. It's not like we're ignoring you. It just becomes it's hard. So I don't know how to the proper way to do that. I just try to like convey to them that we're human too, and like we have lives outside of this, that we try to find that balance between work-life balance, and try to be ask that people be understanding, like with other devs. You see it a lot with other games that big AAA games, even like you see the same responses, and it always kind of like stings me a little bit when I see that happening to other games, because devs really do care. It's not like we're out there just ignoring and doing what we want to. Like the feedback's really important, so keep giving the feedback, but be understanding on the developers side,
and know that some bugs are features.
All mine are.
Yeah. Does anyone else have anything to add to that? Because I do think it's a part of Killer Queen Black's growth was really balancing feature requests with what our capabilities were.
I just couldn't agree more with Adam. I think that we were very fortunate with our community in a lot of ways, because they were so helpful and so patient with us. It being our first game, I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. I mean, our launch was in the smoothest launch ever. Like there were a lot of like bugs in the first week. It was like, oh my gosh. And you guys were so awesome and so patient, and you gave us so much detailed information on all that. And once we got through those hurdles, it was so rewarding to see how much fun everybody was having with the game. And that's like the big part of why we do this, is just to see like, people's faces light up when that was really fun at E3, by the way, when we put it in front of people for the first time, and like they're just screaming at the TV and like, oh my God, it's like, okay, like, maybe we built something cool here. So yes, thank you for for all of that and all the support. And yeah, I just remind you to be a little patient with us. We're trying our best. There's a lot of decisions that get made that you don't really see, and there are a lot of reasons why those decisions get made, and a lot of it is sacrificing one thing for another. And these are really tough calls to make. And I know that they're not going to win over with everybody. But it's not because we don't care. It's not that we don't love the game. It's just, it's not a perfect world we live in, unfortunately, and circumstances happen, and we do the best that we can.
Yeah. The thing I always try to tell people when it comes to game development is it's unlike any other, or it's unlike a lot of other artistic mediums, because game development is essentially like you're having to write a book, but you don't know the beginning, you don't know the ending, and you're starting on page 63. So, and then the next day you'll be working on page 17. The next day you'll be working on page 532. And so you're trying to keep all these things in your head because there's no linear sequence towards it. There's no, that's how you have to write code, and that's how you have to write, put just a game together. Because the first thing you have to do is just get something playable, and then you have to make that thing fun, and then you have to make an actual gameplay loop, and it gets into this insane kind of structure. So there's just sometimes where there's like this really big flashy feature, and that is on page 67, but you need to write the first 66 pages too. But something that's on page 17 might require information from page 217. So it's a real that was really stretching that metaphor, but it's a
real. It was perfect.
No, it was good.
That's the advice
it's like
for
choose your own
devs.
adventure. Go to page 73.
Advice for future game devs: definitely get your analogies and your puns ready, because that's how you survive.
Yeah. But if you're starting out in this industry, or you're starting out making a game like this, don't make an 8-player cross-play console game.
First.
Don't make a multiplayer game. Just don't make a multiplayer.
At least keep it towards a local multiplayer thing, and then find ways to show it in your community with game festivals and bars and stuff like that. Find one mechanic that works, and keep your game as one mechanic, and don't expand beyond that. So if it's a game about grappling hooks, great. That's all you've got. Because the moment you add on top of that, you're going to launch into what we all call scope creep, which means that your game's going to get bigger and bigger and more out of control. And you're either going to end up launching something that's broken or something that never launches at all.
You're running yourself too thin.
Be okay throwing stuff away. Like that, especially from an engineering standpoint, that
kill your darling.
That's always hard. It exists in other forms of development, but kind of like stung a little more, and it took some getting used to, at least from my side. Like, it's hard not to have that little bit of frustration, with game designers when they're like, we're not going to do that anymore. It's like, that, because sometimes it may not seem like a big feature, but it took a week, and then like what you end up with ended up taking a day. It's like, well, it just feels like wasted time, but it's part of the process that you got to be okay with.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. That was great. I love working with all of you. I really have learned a lot, and you've delivered an amazing game. And, like we said earlier, there's been a lot of community built and a lot of friendships made. So definitely hard for us, but we've learned many lessons, and there are many uncertainties ahead as well. So while this is super depressing and not how Liquidbit wanted to see their first title grow and go, we do have to recognize the work that went into the game, how awesome it is, and the people that played it and formed fantastic community. So we're going to present to you the Killer Queen Black Community Appreciation Awards. Let's hear it for the entire B Game League crew: Chassels, Dadcore, EG Free, Hattrick Swayze, Joe Sklo, KG, KT, Lightsaber Metrics, V, and their distinguished alumni developers and creators. But let's get real. Even before BGL, when KQB was part of the Indie Gaming League, she served as the best liaison and community maker. When developing BGL, she advocated for changes, JSON files, more organization, less manual entry, and the crew she formed really showed up for that. So here's the Above and Beyond Award to you, Bee's Knees. Thanks for all you've done for KQB and its players.
Well, this next award goes out to the player clocking in over 1 million snail miles. It also serves as a massive shout out for sharing an epic tribute this Inktober. You've seen her work, she's fabulous, and the future is in good hands. She's a teacher. Give it up for our Smiles for Snail Miles award recipient, Catherine Hess at Miss Hess Art. Thanks for making us smile with your KQB creativity over the years and killing it with your snail stats.
I'm gonna add in
This one always made me smile because I would get a notification from Discord at like noon every day. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Is there another bug? And it'd just be Pampers like, hey, I'm on break. So that was
the
always
time notification.
So the best lunch break maker award is all yours.
Top Queen, most enthusiastic, best in cast overlays, great attitude, and overall team player, Penguin. Really the first player of the devs team's radar. We would sit around and watch streams and we're just blown away by little Penguin dudes play. So while this award recognizes Penguin as a stand-up community member and stellar player, we only thought it was fitting to award the Ultimate Family Portrait Award to Brick, Matt, and Penguin. From beta testing to events and leagues, they probably have the most weekend event winner tees in their collection. But they also had a family member contribute to the original KQB inspired track, Snail Song. Let's hear it for Penguin and Brick Matt, the ultimate family portrait.
When you look for a player that's really good, but can also play with and relate to other players, no matter their skill level, you'll rarely find them, unless you know this guy. He starts important conversations and blows up the LFG channels, bringing KQB players together. We don't know where he finds the time to BGL, KQB, and be a super family man, but Mod Joe Sklo has gone full hero power to continuously bring clarity to the KQB community. Thank you for all your support. A well-deserved hero power award to the Dev Team Bridge. We appreciate you more than you know, Joe. Thanks.
It takes a village to run a Discord, so we want to give it up for the crew, keeping you safe from scams, poking us for updates, making events happening, and answering questions in all of our channels, and that's our mod team. So Ad13UK and Viotech3, who have been here since the very beginning, thank you so much. We want to thank Keyboard Skater, Spock, and of course, once again, Joe. And a special thank you to the Hive helpers as well, Lightsaber Metrics, Arguaz, KG, and Tavi. Also, I just want to throw out some honorable mentions and some really special big thanks to a bunch of our other community members. So our casters and streamers. There's literally too many to mention, but we got like QP mini bosses, KG, Blue Rider, Squid, CDG, Jeff Gignac, my buddy Ryzak, and the whole Game Over crew. To our Xbox ambassadors for their support and playing and chats. To Governor for some really awesome first birthday 3D lamps. There they are right there. To Corvus smoking the Beer League crew, to the Stinger League crew, to Dare Drop and everyone who won keys with them playing KQB. To Hank and Fight for Charity players, thank you so much. And of course, to our Monday night event crew of Tavi and Sabak. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody. That's it. Amazing how much you all contributed to our community.
It really is. Everyone, we've created some personal relationships with you, and we recognize your name in game and Discord handles. Just the last little shout out for your gifts, your art, your emotes, and your general support. Shout out to Paul, Chuck Berry, Yee Howdy, B-Rad, BB Jordy, and Dakota. And everyone that's tuned in tonight. So thank you so much. Matt Tesh couldn't be here. He's our CEO. So huge thanks to Matt. He has kept us sane through this, kept us informed through this, and big thanks to him. Also, we would be remiss if we didn't mention Bumble Bear is actually a developer and partner of ours on this project. They are our friends. Huge thanks to them. Get out there and play Bumble Bear's Killer Queen, play Zombies, play Black Emperor. You can find all the locations of a Killer Queen cab pinned to their Twitter account. So definitely check that out. Enjoy Killer Queen Black local play, and please keep in touch with Liquidbit for future updates on Killer Queen Black, as well as news from our indie dev team. last words and goodbyes from the team.
KQB forever.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I also just wanted to throw out a special shout out to Justice. It goes by PZ on Twitter. Without him being involved, none of this would have happened. So gotta throw it up for him as well.
Thanks, Justice. For sure. Awesome. Okay, we will see you all at the barcade and in Discord and on social.
And in the future.
KQB forever. I mean, we got all our Snailer Moon. How can
Oh,
we
yeah.
ever forget this community? I mean, snail in the coffin.
My water bottle's in the car.
And,
Here's the Kleenex. I should have put Kleenex. All right, guys.
I burned my Akira one on my laptop, unfortunately.
Oh,
I mean, no, it's on my laptop, not my
Well,
water.
we'll have
I
to
didn't
tap
burn
into
it.
Chuck Berry for more of those mashups. Appreciate you all. Thank you for being here. The dev team, as well as the community. KQB wouldn't have made it this far without you. So signing off for now. Hopefully not forever. All right, take care, guys.